All right, what's up, guys? This video is for the week of March 30th, so one more day in March, and then close out the quarter. So expect some volatility from that as funds get their quarterly close. They might need to have a certain amount of funds at a certain percent before the quarter closes. So something to look out for this week. Another thing this week to keep in mind. Let's pull up the economic calendar. Friday is closed for Good Friday, so understand that for volatility as well. Thursday could be a little weird with liquidity before they close out the long weekend. So you have that with quarter close. Could be a weirder week. Other than that, we have jolts, non-farm payrolls, initial jobless claims this week. So look out for all of those. Again, economic data hasn't really been a big mover. So again, just something to note if the market does move. But yeah, just to know how the economy's going as well. But just something to note. Shouldn't move too much though. Other than that, there's really not a lot of quality setups this week. So I really just want to talk about, my stance on the market, how I'm positioned, what I'm looking for, as a trader. What are you doing for the next couple weeks? I have long-term positions. How do I scale into those? What do I want to focus on? How long does the market go down for? So it's just a lot of things you can think about as a trader. Sorry, one other thing I forgot to mention, Powell speaks on Monday. I don't think it's anything huge. I think it's just a brief on what's been going on with the war and everything like that. And he'll probably just give an update on his fiscal policy and what the Fed's looking to do about that. But yeah, let's look at some setups. First, we'll look at SPY and QQQ. Last week, you finally got some momentum to the downside. The Discord had a couple good trades. We took some NDX to the downside, SPX to the downside, MU on the way up, a couple things on the way up, but the trend's been down, so it's good to catch something. It's been a little scarier playing SPX and NDX because you have that underlying feeling, Trump tweets one thing, says one thing, and you can have that 20-30 bar handle in the opposite direction when it really wasn't expected. So good that we got some follow through. It helps with some clearer opportunities. You can clearly see we're in a downtrend. So a couple things I'm looking for, just in terms of where my edge is. So the edge I see right now with SPY, you can see the 9MA rejecting every single time. So that gives me a clear direction, number one. But number two, that also tells me the first reclaim of that 9MA could be that switch to go higher. Does the news line up? Does everything line up? But we know that SPY is respecting the 9MA, so that's something to understand. So ideally, next time this does, maybe it does a little dead cat bounce after this hard sell-off. If we do touch that 9MA again, though, you're still looking for shorts. Play it until you're invalidated, type of thing, and then you can switch from there. Yeah, in terms of the downside targets, though, I mean, we could stop here, we could continue. I'm looking at this little liquidity area on SPY in terms of what could be a potential bottom. Maybe you tag this other quarterly here, so we can up this range just to make it a little clearer. That's 609 to 620. Okay, nice $10 range. If we could get down to there and start developing a base, we'll look good for the upside again, possibly, but really just depends on how long this war stuff stretches out, what headlines we get, everything like that. But those are my edges right now. We're respecting the 9, clear downtrend. These are my targets for that first larger liquidity, where the larger liquidity comes in for the upside again. So that's what we know, and we'll see. But let's look at QQQ as well, similar theme. Good, that one's already there. So QQQ, understand that it's a little weaker than SPY. It's always going to be a little weaker. It's also always probably going to be a little bit stronger on the upside in terms of how quick it can move and the volatility of it. It's definitely a larger moving stock than SPY. So you have a similar range, though, in terms of where the liquidity comes in. So you get SPY down to that 609. You get QQQ down to this 540, 550 range. Both of them have, a couple reasons to start bouncing or start trying to carve out a bottom. But again, we will see when the time comes, but those are where my edges are. QQQ hasn't been respecting the 9 as clear as SPY, but when you see the 50 stretch from the 21 and the 9 stretch from the 21 like this, it's a clear, the direction's ridiculously clear. Don't fight the trend. Bounces should be shorted. You can catch bounces on maybe some individually stronger names, but I really wouldn't be looking. There's no reason to look for longs yet on SPY or QQQ. Play the bounces, to the downside. See if the volume's, you know, still dying when the market's moving higher. It's going to show you that, you know, it's a bearish market right now. So don't fight anything, no matter really what you think, you know. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Let's take a look at POWL. There's just a couple individual setups, really nothing crazy. POWL tagged high volume. I believe that's high volume close. Yeah, they tagged high volume close from 10-300 day yesterday. Honestly, gave you a really clear move to the high volume high, and then came right back down to the high volume close. So if POWL gets over that Friday's highs, we could go right back to that high volume high and test that before we go lower. You do have a decent short setup. I don't like shorting 10-300, so I'm not going to. If it does fail at that high volume close though, so what is that? 526, you could get a move down to 509 on that 50 MA, which is still, you know, 15 points it's going to pay. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for right now. You have all the MAs still underneath it. So if it does get over Friday's highs, could see that high volume high again, and then maybe 612 if the market looks better, but we'll see. MRVL was a great 10-300 name. You know, I was unfortunately looking for a bounce play if it tagged the bottom of the channel again, and it ended up breaking, you know, early in the week last week. But you have the retest of that high volume close. If it gets back over that monthly level, back over that 95.50, you can get back to 97. You could get back to 99. It's respecting its levels extremely well. So, you know, I would stick to that theme. Even if it backtests 93.40 early on Monday and then holds again, it's worth a shot. But if it does, you know what, honestly, looking at this chart now, if it gets under 93.40 and this 9MA catches up, look for that reclaim back above 93.40. So it would be like an undercut and reversal. Look for that fail at 93.40. See if that liquidity switches. If it gets back over 93.40, you can go long. If it doesn't, you know, leave it. No reason to touch it. I think that's the play on MRVL. If you miss it, you know, you could take that 95.55 break, but that would be prime entry. You know, try and sweep the high volume high. Try and sweep under the 9MA, and then, you know, reclaim and trap those sellers. So we'll see if we get that. LEU I had on short last week, and I really regret not entering. I got this. It's just a perfect tag. You got the retest of the 9MA, you got the retest of the 21MA, and you had a monthly there as well, back for the downside. So it was just, you know, three different forms of resistance, really telling you on a clear downtrend stock as well, telling you to short there. This 182.52 is still big. I might try it if it breaks under it. It hasn't even broke under it at all. So, you know, it worries me a little bit about that liquidity sweep back over. But you figure if we can get one base Monday, maybe the market cap's up. I have no idea. You can get one base on Monday, and then you get that failure on a nice volume increase. I'm going to take the trade. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I would just like at least one more day, kind of let that 9MA catch up a little bit. MP was a similar theme, but you know, I'm waiting for that 50, and I don't mind it. So, you know, if it fails at 51.77, it's not a bad shot to maybe start developing a short position. But if it gets under that 50, you know, you're looking at a name that it's got a lot of room down if it wants to go. So I mean, you know, you have 43 to 32, you have a massive gap fill. So that ideally gives you till 43 on that one of those first targets on this downtrend. You know, it might hold up there. You have a really big gap, so I don't know if it gets through at first attempt. But MP is absolutely one of those stocks. You know, if the market really does want to start killing these high PE ratios, these companies that, you know, are going solely off of themes rather than the money they make, you know, the market might want to kill them first. So, and MP would have a large way down. So we'll watch that 50 pivot this week, see if it gets under with volume. Gold and silver, I'm eyeing shorts. I mean, actually don't have any levels here. Let's just do this quick. You guys can actually just get a glimpse of how you mark up levels on a larger time frame. So my quarterlies are blue. Make sure you get every quarterly except the candle that's being formed, because you don't know if it's going to close. That's all I need. And then we'll get these monthlies in here. My monthlies are purple. Switch that. Boom, boom. And then this will give you a clearer picture of where we may head to next. Let me just get this monthly also in there. All right. Let's see. So, you know, just another clear indication. This is the gap. Let's make sure there's no monthly under there. There's no monthly or quarterly in between here. So already I'm looking at this. If gold or silver, let's see if gold, we'll see if gold has a similar chart, but if silver can't reclaim 65 or that 64, 65 area by Monday, Tuesday, or tries to get over and starts failing again at the 9, you have a really large short range in terms of what it can test before you start getting some real support levels. You got 51, you got almost 12 points on silver. Let's see if it matches up with gold for some confluence. We'll do this really quick, really quick. You should do this on any stock that you trade. Quarterlies, monthlies, that's it. And if there's really a lot of gaps, you could go weeklies. Or sometimes when stuff's at all-time highs, you know there's not going to be a lot of monthly or quarterly levels. So you need weeklies. Let's get that month, let's get that. Boom, boom. Let's get that monthly. So gold, you have a little more support. Gold, you don't have a crazy explosive move like silver. Let's see. Yeah, you got some forms of support under here. Okay, but you can easily use confluence on these. You know, you take that silver and gold rejection off the 9, you know your first target on gold is 400, and you can correlate that with silver. So just a couple thoughts. They're definitely getting into a downtrend here if they can't reclaim the 9 this week. Might do another flush. SNDK WDC, you know, these, I don't know, they could gap down 30 and this could be invalidated, but ideally if SNDK opens up, really, if it opens up anywhere over that Friday low, I think it's good. But, you know, ideally it's between 615 and 635 just to make it look a little stronger. If it opens up in between there and under 635, though, I think you have a really good candle off the 50 MA and a really good, you know, hammer candle, they call it. Shooting star, maybe. I believe it's a hammer candle, though. This is bullish as well. So if it reclaims, you know, you have Friday's highs basically lining up with a monthly perfectly. So if it reclaims that 635 and starts, you know, heading over Friday's highs, you have, number one, you have a really clear range to 676, but then you also have a really clear stop. You know, what was Friday's highs? 640-ish, 638.52. So you could take that 638, 639 break and then use 635 as that pivot for, you know, just to keep it tight, keep the strength high and keep your losses small. But yeah, definitely a play I'm eyeing for Monday if we do get that bounce off to 50. It's been over the 50 the entire year. So, you know, you figure there's the other case where if we do fail at Friday's lows, could be a really ugly sign for the market in terms of, you know, the stuff making the most money starting to sell off. You know, really nothing can go up if SNDK and MU and these names aren't going up. Or it wouldn't make sense, you know. Similar setup on WDC. So, you know, can it hold the 50 MA? I would probably wait for that higher monthly. 285's been a fantastic level to play, as well as 296. You know, it just bounces in between that, and you can play textbook longs and shorts between those levels. You know, it's been going on for almost a month now. So again, over 285, I'd almost be surprised if it doesn't get 296. So that's what I'm looking at. Under 272, shorts are in play. I'm not sure I'll take it just because I know how strong these names are, and I'd probably look for, you know, some weaker names or even SPY and QQQ to play shorts. But you know, it is possible for them to get a decent move lower down to those other monthlies. For example, you know, you got a 20-point range if WDC gets under that 272. But yeah, other than that, like it's really not a week to. It's not a week to size up. It's not a week to play aggressive. It's really not a week to do anything. For me personally, I'm really just going to be chilling this week. I'll look at these setups. Not really sure if I'll take them with size at all. I usually like to try them, you know, 1 or 2 contracts regardless. Just because if it does work, you know, I like to, you know, follow through on my ideas. But yeah, other than that, positions-wise, I am a little caught right now. Caught in terms of fills. You know, I definitely could have timed this better. I did buy 100 shares of MU after earnings, so that was a fill around, I believe it was like 438, 440. And then MU flushed to this 400 level, and I believe on this crack lower I added another 100 shares. So I think let's just take a peek really quick. My Robinhood, I believe my average is around 420. 420. Let's double check. My average is 428. 428. So really not amazing. So shitty fill in terms of how excited I got, I think, on that earnings report. But again, I see this as a long term. if it does go really low, you know, and I mean 298 low, you know, you do have a larger range under 363. So if we do get anywhere near 300, I'll probably take another, you know, meaningful size in it and stop there. Because I do see this as a real winner in the future. You know, it's had some bad news around it, and you know, ideally with what's going on with the war and everything, nothing's really going to go up sustainably. So you figure the environment's wrong, the news was a little shaky, but there's no denying they made significant money and projected that they're going to continue to make significant money. So that's where I'm at. You know, MU and obviously ASTS, if you've been following me, MU and ASTS are still my largest holdings, and that's really not going to change. Now it's really a case of, all right, how can I time these? How can I get back into these at a meaningful price? You know, because ideally, you look at ASTS, this is almost a 50%. You know, you almost have 100% upside back to the highs. So just sorry, not quite, maybe like 75, but you know, that's not light on something that I know should get there in the future and something I believe in heavily. So you know, I'm really looking to scale into my long terms, make sure I don't miss the opportunity the market's giving me. But yeah, if you have a small account right now and you know you have no cash that you're trying to put into the market, it's just chill time. It's really just time to relax, let the market do its thing, play levels, play the MAs, use volume, simple quick day trades, size down, take your money and call it a day. You know, it's not a time to hold trades, swing trades, you know, and nothing like that, or size up. So yeah, chill mode. Maybe just set a rule for yourself. I might do the same. Just chill till after Easter. Honestly, see how this market develops. Try to sell a little premium, collect some cash, and that's it. But yeah, let's see what happens. All right, see ya.